have makeup on.
Oh my gosh, I work so hard. You're complaining about your hard life and you're so privileged. It's just so weird.
Are calling for Harry and Meghan to be stripped of their HRH titles.
Following the legal ruling, Prince Harry ran to the media, shock, and participated in a sit-down interview with the BBC, claiming he does not see a world where he could bring Meghan and the kids back to the UK.
Being unable to just be a human.
I mean, when I listen to Meghan, I am just reminded that there's nothing authentic there.
You're never going to convince anyone that you're authentic.
I'm working so hard. Is she really?
Why does she struggle so much with humanity?
It seems like every time Meghan Markle makes a public appearance, the reaction is anything but subtle, and this time is no different. Recently, Meghan sat down with Jamie Kern Lima on a podcast that was billed as raw, authentic, and unscripted, promising to show the Duchess of Sussex like never before. The entire setup was supposed to strip away the glamour, give us the real Meghan, and give listeners a behind-the-scenes look at her thoughts, struggles, and growth. But once the episode aired, the internet had one overwhelming response: this isn't real. Not even close. Let's start with the premise. Meghan appeared on this podcast looking flawless. Not a hair out of place. No signs of the promised no makeup look. In fact, many commented that it looked like she'd just stepped out of a professional photo shoot. The irony didn't go unnoticed. A show meant to emphasize authenticity ended up feeling overproduced and rehearsed. From Meghan's posture to her subtle camera awareness, many viewers felt they were watching a polished PR product, not a vulnerable conversation. And then there was Jamie Kern Lima herself. Her reactions were so over the top and theatrical that even fans were left cringing. At one point, Lima broke down in tears, but the moment felt so staged and melodramatic that social media exploded with accusations of emotional manipulation.
Humanity.
I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Meghan Markle is like a pathological liar.
She can't even act like herself.
And she is exhausting. You are not a successful female entrepreneur. I can list more fails on both of my hands.
She has done the world premiere episode of actually being on someone else's podcast.
Some even suggested the entire appearance was a soft launch for Meghan's next brand pivot, with this podcast serving more as a strategic platform than an honest dialogue. But the performance didn't end there. Meghan's gift basket to Jamie stirred up even more backlash. The basket was signed Her Royal Highness, a title that Meghan and Prince Harry are no longer entitled to use following their official exit from royal duties in 2020. The use of the title, even in private correspondence, directly contradicts their agreement with the palace. Critics were quick to point out that despite Meghan's insistence on living her truth and stepping away from royal constraints, she still seems more than eager to use the benefits of royal association when it suits her. It was yet another reminder that the Sussexes often want the perks of monarchy without the responsibility that comes with it. And let's talk about the brand Meghan is pushing now. The lifestyle brand, called American Riviera Orchard, made headlines when it launched with a series of carefully curated product drops, including jam and dog treats. The rollout was classic Meghan, limited quantities, controlled leaks to media, and carefully coordinated influencer gifting. The jam reportedly sold out instantly, but insiders have suggested that only a small number were ever produced, making the sold-out label feel less like a result of overwhelming demand and more like a marketing stunt. This tactic, while common in influencer and celebrity culture, rang hollow to many. It felt like a forced attempt to engineer hype and create the illusion of widespread demand. But if Meghan's goal was to appeal to the average American mom or lifestyle enthusiast,
I think it's going to happen. I think what's going to happen because the threat of William taking the titles away. Yeah. But I think once the titles get stripped, I think Harry's...
Meghan Markle has burst into tears in a fake new podcast appearance.
Critics argue she missed the mark entirely. The branding was labeled as out of touch, aspirational without being accessible, and curated to a fault. Trademark filings revealed that Meghan is planning to slap her brand's name on everything from yoga mats to pet bowls, which gave people the impression that the brand wasn't born out of passion but opportunism. The public reaction was swift and merciless. Online commenters accused her of throwing together a vanity project aimed at cashing in on a carefully cultivated image rather than offering something of value. One viral post said the whole thing felt like a desperate bid to be the next Martha Stewart, without actually building anything yourself. On the podcast, Meghan also tried to humanize herself by talking about her relatable struggles, things like school, drop-offs, meetings, and parenting stress. But her tone struck many as disingenuous. She framed basic parenting routines as if they were monumental challenges, as though she was the first working mom to juggle kids and a schedule. She even mentioned that she writes nightly emails to her children about her day.
This is why it's so nice to not have makeup on.
That is so beautiful.
No.
What do you think of them?
They're ridiculous.
She never stops whining.
Something meant to sound heartfelt but instead came across as performative. Parents online pointed out that while that sounds sweet in theory, in practice, it felt like an unrealistic depiction of motherhood, especially when coming from someone with round-the-clock staff and nannies. It wasn't the act of writing to her children that offended people, it was the way it was presented, like she was the only mother on earth being thoughtful and intentional. Adding to the tone deafness was her continued use of the victim narrative. Meghan yet again emphasized how hard her life has been, how misunderstood she feels, and how she's constantly under attack. And while there's no doubt that being in the public eye, especially as a royal figure, comes with intense scrutiny, many believe Meghan weaponizes that scrutiny to her advantage. She appears to position herself as both victim and hero, using every perceived slight as a platform for reinvention. Some called her out for trauma mining, turning every public event into a story of struggle and overcoming the odds. But when every hardship is filtered through a PR lens and monetized via jam jars and pet collars, it's no wonder the public is skeptical. Jamie Kern Lima, for her part, didn't help Meghan's image. A self-made billionaire and former reality TV star herself, Lima has been praised in the past for her business acumen and motivational story. But her role in this interview felt less like a host and more like a fangirl. Her wide-eyed admiration and repeated praise of Meghan came off as forced and robotic, lacking the curiosity or challenge you'd expect from a serious interviewer. It felt like Meghan was there to be worshipped, not questioned. Lima's tone, her cadence, and even the camera angles evoked the feel of a late-night infomercial or a TED Talk parody rather than an intimate conversation. Instead of letting Meghan's words stand on their own, Lima's reactions drowned them out, making the whole episode feel scripted and saccharine. Then came the Time 100 Summit appearance. Despite not making the actual list this year, Meghan still showed up, because of course she did. Her speech was filled with what many described as word salad, a string of poetic-sounding nonsense that lacked clear substance. One standout line, comparing dried flower petals to joy, was roasted online for its vagueness and lack of relevance. It was hard to tell whether she was promoting wellness, selling a product, or giving a therapy session. People are starting to notice a pattern. Meghan speaks in metaphors and polished quotes that sound profound at first but, upon closer inspection, don't really say anything. It left many asking, is this what global influence looks like now? Selling jam and talking about petals. As all this was unfolding, Prince Harry wasn't exactly helping the couple's image either. In a recent BBC interview, he reignited tensions with the royal family, accusing them of not addressing security concerns for his children. He specifically mentioned King Charles's grandchildren and suggested that the monarchy's failure to act was both negligent and hurtful. The timing of these comments, while King Charles is undergoing cancer treatment, was widely criticized. People felt Harry was exploiting his father's health for sympathy, while further straining family relations. His tone came across as self-pitying, with critics pointing out that Harry often talks about wanting reconciliation but then throws verbal grenades whenever he's handed a microphone. It didn't take long for people to connect the dots between Meghan and Harry's actions and the continued deterioration of their image. For a couple who once declared they were stepping back from royal life for privacy, they sure seem to chase the spotlight at every opportunity. Whether it's through Netflix deals, Spotify exclusives, public speaking gigs, or lifestyle brands, the Sussexes appear determined to remain relevant, just on their own terms. But that effort increasingly comes across as calculated, and at times, tone-deaf. Meghan's brand of empowerment is starting to feel hollow. It's hard to take someone seriously when their idea of connecting with everyday people involves selling designer jam and talking about morning routines like they're acts of heroism. In the end, Meghan and Harry seem trapped in a cycle of contradiction. They criticize the royal family while cashing in on royal connections. They claim to value authenticity but operate with the precision of a Hollywood PR machine. They say they want peace but constantly stir the pot. And maybe that's the real issue. There's no consistent story, just a collection of polished sound bites, designer products, and carefully staged appearances. The public is growing tired of it. Authenticity can't be faked, no matter how good the lighting is or how poetic your metaphors sound. And until Meghan and Harry start living the truth they keep preaching about, the backlash isn't going anywhere.